What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of the One Fourth Careers podcast. Today is a special day. This episode is our inaugural episode of our executive series, where I'm bringing you executives from various careers and industries. I'm Xavier, your host, and I'm here with Kevin. Kevin graduated from North Carolina State University with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, Management, and Operations. Kevin also earned his MBA from North Carolina State University with a concentration in consulting services. Now, Kevin is a managing director at Accenture, focusing on talent and enterprise transformation. Kevin is a husband and father to three. In addition to all of that, Kevin has been an incredible mentor, leader, and friend for me over the last few years. Without further ado, Kevin, welcome to the pod, man.
Thanks, Xavier. Thanks for having me. I feel like it's a treat to be here and looking forward to sharing my experience. I don't know how much you're gonna get, but I share all I know.
Which is a lot, I promise y'all. Well, man, let's go ahead and get started. Can you share with the people a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So I'm in our talent and org space. Prior to that, I was in our change management practice. I've always been at Accenture, but just stepping back a little bit, I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. I moved to the US when I was 13. Moved to North Carolina, where my family currently lives. Did school there, undergrad and graduate school. Uh, Part of why I started where I grew up as a Nigerian is it influenced a lot of how I move today. My decisions, how I show up at work. My culture is very core to what I do and everything I believe in, as you'll probably hear a lot in this conversation we're about to have. And for me, it was just as I was moving from North Carolina to Minnesota with Accenture, I just knew I wanted to do something that allowed me to learn as much as I could because I'm a serial learner. So that's kind of how I ended up in consulting. I didn't think I wanted to do consulting long term. I was like, well, I'll do it for a couple of years after grad school, see what I want, and then 2 years became. I think I'll be year 18 in October. Um, but it's okay. I started working at 5. I'm really young. Don't let that 18 years fool you.
Nah, there you go. Hey, black don't crack anyway, so
Right?
I'm sure I'm sure the people couldn't have guessed too much how long you've been there, but no, appreciate you sharing that, man. Well, we're gonna hit our first segment here called the step back. I know you're a basketball guy, so I'm sure you can appreciate the
Yeah,
name there, man. Well,
yeah, I like
we
it.
want to talk about your career and get into all the wisdom, but first, I think it's a really rich opportunity to ask you when you were growing up, Nigeria, North Carolina, your roots, man. What did you want to be professionally when you were younger?
To be honest, I don't know that many Nigerian kids like grow up saying, I want to go do X.
Mm-hmm.
We grow up wanting to do what our parents kind of said this was your thing. It was
Yeah.
doctor, lawyer, engineer. So for me, it just became I want to go do one of those three things. And that was my aspiration. When I moved to the US, it was like, all right, I'm gonna go to med school.
Mm.
I remember like in high school, I had 800 volunteer hours at a local hospital because I'm like, I'm going to med school. So I'm getting everything ready. Then I go to NC State my freshman year, my first semester, and I get a C in biology 101. It's like, man, this med school is not up to a good start. So and I was like, and in the whole process, I'm trying to figure out what do I need to do. But for some reason in my head, I was just always raised to do something in the health field. Then I said, well, I can't do med school with a C, so let me go do pharmacy. And then I kind of switched in that I'm going to go take pharmacy. Then I took my first organic chemistry and I was like, oof, this is rough. And then that just kind of pivoted into, you know, what am I good at? And then I realized I was probably like a sophomore, junior in college, and I realized I enjoy being around people. I enjoy being around people, talking to people, helping trying to figure out the problems or the situations. A lot of my friends, even to this day, they still joke about it. From when I was very young, they would come talk to me about issues because immediately I'm like, all right, what can we do? What can we do? I'm always trying to figure out how do we fix it. So I think because of that, my parents thought I should go into engineering because I was always good at trying to solve problems. But then I just was always good being around people. And that kind of led me to that business side of things. Um, Obviously, I had to disappoint my Nigerian parents and not go into, I wasn't an attorney and I didn't go into engineering. I didn't go into med school. So I disappointed them a little. But I think for me, it was just someone gave me advice once that said, think 10 years from wherever you are and say, am I still enjoying what I do? And if the answer is yes, or as close to yes, then that's what you need to go do. If the answer is no, then you should not be doing that. Because at one point, I was even studying for my LSAT to try to go to law school. And then even going through those Kaplan courses, I realized 10 years from now, if I'm doing what I'm reading through this content now, I will not be happy. And eventually just took that pivot.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Really interesting. So, getting back to regular programming, man, you are a managing director. What does that mean?
Yeah.
How would you describe your roles and responsibilities here at Accenture?
So I would, in three parts. I think the first one is bringing innovative solutions to clients. How do we help clients solve problems? Whatever that problem is, how do we help clients solve the problems? The second is, I think, how do you grow our business?
Hmm.
So, what are the things I need to do, the relationships, the point of views? How do I grow our business? Solving clients first, business second. And then I think the third thing that kind of keeps all that together is developing our talent. This is something I take very personally, and I think this is how we ran into each other years ago, Xavier. Right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, when you see good people as leaders, I think when you see good people, you have to pause and say, "Am I doing everything I need to do to help this person get to that next level?"
Hmm.
Early in my career, I didn't feel like people did that for me. To be honest, maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe that's why they didn't do it for me. And it's not about you know handing out free meals. It's just some people are just really good and just need a little bit of navigation and just some time. Hey, here's my lesson learned. Here's how you should do it. And they figure and they sprint, right? They just need a little bit of time. So the client piece, growing the business, and also the talent, I think are the three parts of what I do at Accenture. Um, Asking me which one's my favorite, it's always going to be the developing the people side of it. Obviously, the clients having clients solve problems is good too, but if you don't invest in the people that are doing the work, then you're not going to grow a business or help your client. So
I feel like I can co-sign that. I'm sure you do great at all of them, but specifically growing the people, you're one of Accenture's best at that. So whatever
appreciate
pull I have to give you that badge, I got you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Next question I have for you, man. Do you have any stories from earlier in your career that you feel solidified your brand with any particular group that may be as far back as with family or solidifying your brand with your boss or your peers? Any stories come to mind there?
Yeah, I think my brand has evolved in the probably the last 10 years for sure. Maybe a little bit longer.
Hmm.
I think the brand I had when I was in Nigeria is different from the brand I had when I first moved to the US versus the brand I had in college and then the brand I had in my early parts of my career and now. But I think the one thing that's been consistent across all of those that I would say has probably been a driving force is my persistence and I think what Accenture would call it is doing the right thing by our people. No one has ever met Kevin and says Kevin took the first no. You can tell me no. There's no telling me no. You can say no. I'll try the other person. They can
Yeah.
say no. I'll try the other person.
Hmm.
I am very persistent, and I think that's been a part of my career that's kind of shaped my brand. And I think one thing too, just I think it's a lot of people say they have this, but I see this a lot in the Nigerian culture and just even my Nigerian friends and family. There's a thing about resilience. We're very resilient people. Um, so that part of that saying no is also just I'm persistent. But I've been told no several times in a way, as in not that I don't have an answer, but just you shouldn't do it. I don't think it's the right thing. But something in my heart just says that is the right thing to do. So even if you say no and you keep rejecting it, I'm gonna keep pushing and figuring out a way to make it happen because I feel like that's the right thing to do. So I think if I had to define two things in my brand, I think it's that persistence and resilience, and I think those are transferable skills and mindsets regardless of what you do and where you
Mhm.
are. Because if you can learn how to manage and live with the no's, you will eventually get to that yes. But if you don't know how to fight through those no's, you will stay down after that first couple of no's, and then you miss your blessing. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I definitely do. I can attest to the persistence and the resilience for sure. Um, well, that's awesome. I definitely appreciate that insight. Well, you shared like a small nugget before saying that there was a possibility that maybe you weren't ready for certain mentorship or certain types of guidance, if you will. My question for you is if you were able to go back as a younger professional to provide yourself any advice, what would that advice look like?
Yeah, I think for me, it would be that I am enough. I remember when I was earlier in my career at Accenture, I was in a group, our services group, which tends to be more of our maintenance support type services. And I wanted to do consulting. And I remember going to my manager at the time and I said, "Hey, I want to do consulting." I was working on a call center at the time. And he said, "I don't think you can do that. It's a little too fast paced for you." And I was like, "What? Fast paced for me?" So that was my trigger to go look into how do I get into consulting. They're like,
Yeah.
"You have to go get an MBA." I'm like, "Cool." I went and got my MBA, and I came back and I got into consulting. Um, and then I remember early in my consulting years, I didn't grow up in a traditional consulting model. I didn't go to like this is the top 10 MBA programs, right? So people have certain expectations of you because you didn't go to a top 10 MBA program. So I came in and I remember getting feedback around you're not strategic enough or you don't have executive presence, those kind of things. And it's just, for me, it was in my mind, I knew I could do it because I knew I was able to outwork anyone to do that because I just knew I needed to be resilient and persistent about whatever that direction is. So I knew I
Mhm.
could outwork anyone. So I knew I could do it. But when people tell you so often that, you know, it's too fast paced, you're not strategic enough, you don't have executive presence, you start to almost kind of believe it a little bit. Um, so I think the advice I would give myself is you are good enough, right? So just trust your work ethic, trust the guidance around the people around you that you do trust
Mhm.
your hard work, trust the things that have gotten you there. And as long as you're putting in that work and you're willing to take that feedback and you're willing to fail and get back up, you're good enough.
Yeah.
And I came into consulting and I made managing director in what, 10 years, 11 years. And for me, it was to that person who told me consulting is too fast paced for me, or I wasn't strategic enough, or I didn't have executive presence. It was just fire for me to get there
Yeah.
because I really was good enough. I mean, here I am.
There you go. There you go. It makes me think of when you mention if you put the work in and all those other components, you're enough. I recently saw a clip from the Eagles. It was like Jalen Hurts, who I'm a fan of as an individual,
Mhm.
not the Eagles. It was a clip with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley where Saquon asked Jalen, like, "Are you fearless?" And Jalen Hurts, in so many words, said, you shouldn't worry. If you know you put the work in, what is there to worry about? Trust the process. If you know you're doing the work, what is there to worry about? And I think that struck me as something I believe, but I did need the reminder. So I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
know, especially with underrepresented, underserved communities, and probably even more, but especially within our community, you have that imposter syndrome. You have those moments of
Hmm.
wondering if I'm enough. Do I have the right credential? Comparing yourself, which comparison is a thief of joy, and all those things that keep us from being
Hmm.
where our 2 feet are. I think it's really encouraging seeing someone with your success to still say, like, to echo those same sentiments. You've had some of
Yeah.
those same similar experiences and thoughts.
Yeah, I was at this conference last week, that Umu Ibo Unite conference I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
and someone asked a question around, and I forgot where it was, but they asked a question around imposter syndrome and how you overcome, or how do you never have imposter syndrome. I think you should always have imposter syndrome, to be honest, because I think once you stop having imposter syndrome, that means you've let your guard down. You've become complacent. Because for me, I think when I have imposter syndrome, it's fire for me to prove that I do deserve to be here. And it's not for me to never have imposter syndrome. It's for me to build the tools I need. So when I have it again, I know how to get out of it. So it's
Yeah.
never about how do I get rid of it. It's how do I build the right tools, because I know it's going to come again at some point.
Yeah.
Now I have tools to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I always have imposter syndrome. I get a new role, I get a new client, or I have to go present to a very senior client, and you always wonder, hey, they could have brought maybe a more senior partner or something, and then they bring me. In my head, I have to remind myself I'm good enough, and they brought me for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm here, what do I need to do? What is my fear? If my fear is I don't want to say the wrong thing, then I need to go make sure I spend extra time preparing in that space to make sure I know what I'm going to speak about. So in case they ask questions, I'm not saying the wrong thing. So for me,
Yeah.
it's about preparation in those situations. So then I prepare to come into that environment. So when it does happen, I don't feel unprepared. I don't feel like there's a gap because I've
Yeah.
over prepared for this. That I don't
Yep.
feel any, like you said, like Hurst said, if you trust the process and you put in the work, I'm not worried about it because I know I prepped for this. Uh,
Yep. I have
so
a one of my prior guests. He said preparation prevents piss poor performance.
I agree.
So I rock with that.
Yeah.
Definitely, preparation is certainly key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people don't want to put in that work, that preparation, because it
Yeah,
is work. You know what I mean? Like
it's a
everyone
grind.
wants to be Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or Steph Curry. But what you don't see is, they say Steph Curry like what runs 4 to 6 miles or something like that every practice just from him moving around. So when he
Mm.
gets in the game and that man gets open every 30 seconds, you're like, how is this man open again? But he's built that and he preps and he does that behind the scenes.
They
LeBron,
say
he's
you
on his
can't
what,
keep up with his
21st
workouts.
year? Yeah, the man runs constantly. LeBron is 39. What, 39? He looks like he could be on a high school team. That man is in better shape than some high school football players because he takes care of his body and he prepares. So
Yeah.
it takes work to prepare. And a lot of times, I think in the corporate world, everyone wants that instant gratification of promotion. I
Mm-hmm.
want to get to the next level. I want to get promoted. Like it's the first thing you hear. I want to get promoted. I want to make more money. Then you forget the what do I need to do and how do I put in that work. So when I do get there, it's not about getting there. It's about sustaining while you're there. Because you can get there and then you fall apart. You make it harder for the next person because you fell apart. So if you prepare and you can sustain there, you can get to the next level faster and easier. It makes it
Mm-hmm.
easier for the person behind you if they do the same thing. So
Yeah. Well, on that, getting more specific to consulting, for folks who want to get into consulting, whether they're transitioning from undergrad to consulting or maybe they're interested in pivoting, what's some of the first pieces of advice you would want to give a prospective consultant?
um, in terms of just like how to navigate it, or
I don't know. I mean, it really can be anything. It can be what they should be preparing to enter, any
yeah,
insights on here's what it's going to be like, or any, hey, everyone's trying to go into consulting, but so many people have misconceptions about consulting. Whatever really comes top of mind to you.
Yeah, I think the thing people don't, I did not appreciate it, or neither did I really understand this coming into consulting is that thing. Consulting will test you. Consulting is a very grimy industry, and you have to come in with a mindset of you cannot take things personally, right? Like I one client told me once, they're like, Kevin, yeah, I know this, status is off, and yeah, I know it was our person, but we're gonna say it's red, and we're gonna say it's Accenture's because you're the consultant. Like you just have to prepare to take the fall for it. But I didn't take it personally. I'm like, yep, sounds good. We'll make sure we have clear action items on how we get there. So consulting it's a very grimy type of industry and work where you have to have such confidence in yourself and in your character and what you bring to the table because it will shake you every time to the point where you're just like, man, am I in the right place? I used to be smart until I went to that meeting. You know what I mean? Like you start doubting yourself. Like consulting will make you doubt yourself. Um, and I think the other thing people talk about in consulting, which I think is true, is the whole networking piece. I've never been anywhere or seen any industry where networking, yes, you can, you always have to network, but consulting, the way consulting works, at least at Accenture, it's very much about your network and to then determine the kind of projects you get. For example, if you don't have the right network to get on the right projects, you're not getting the right visibility to show your strengths. Then you're not getting the opportunities to get promoted into the bigger roles because you never got the opportunity to get on a bigger project to show what you can actually do because you didn't have the network to elevate you into that spot. You know what I mean? But people come into consulting and they're like, well, I did this. Now I don't, I keep doing this kind of work, but I'm not getting this opportunity over here. But if you look at people that are getting these bigger opportunities over there, they're the ones that are better plugged in. Um, I think one thing I see, and I said on in the panel, is we as black people and minorities in the corporate world, we have to be willing to step out of our comfort zone, and we have to be willing to lean in even when it's out of the norm for us, and we have to be okay accepting that our allies are not always going to look like us, and that's okay because it's all of those things or having all of those things in place that will help you navigate the sometimes harshness that consulting as an industry is if you don't have those things in place, or we've talked about this board of directors, right? So you don't have those things in place. When you hit that roadblock, consulting will test you. It will make you question your character and your intelligence and confidence and everything.
PTSD, I said. So for those who don't know, I mentioned Kevin being one of my biggest mentors, just meeting the 1 year version of me, the 2 year version of me. Hopefully there's been some maturation over time. But when he talks about kind of having a lot of those moments of you're doubting yourself, you're questioning yourself. I've heard so many consultants say, oh, I know we're all kind of this type A personality. So you just imagine a bunch of people who are looking to be high achievers and always seeking that validation. But the minute you to an extent feel that adversity, or you're not the smartest in the room, or there's a problem that you don't know how to solve immediately and you have to do a bunch of work just to figure out how to approach and solve and all those things, it can definitely be a bit difficult. So it is really important to have that community around you, which it's almost
Hmm.
like you're kind of reading my mind, because I was actually going to ask you, how important is it having a community around you in consulting and in the workforce and life, whatever it is?
Bro, I cannot tell you, like, there's no words to explain how critical that is.
Okay.
If I think about my journey at Accenture or just working in general,
Mhm.
like the first third was kind of like, man, what am I doing? Then the middle was like, all right, I kind of figure what I'm doing, but no one really knows me or no one is really investing time in me. Then the third piece is like, all right, I have confidence in what I'm doing. I have people who believe in me. I'm getting the right opportunities. And the one difference is I'm able to now I have a support group. I have a board of directors, people that I trust, that I know will steer me and guide me in the right direction if I go off track. People that I know care about Kevin as an individual, not Kevin what you can do as a product or productivity for me, but you as an individual because I know you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for those people to pour time into me, I have to be willing to apply the feedback and coaching that they give me, which I think is another important point. You have to be able to willing to listen to feedback, apply, and just yes, that was wrong, right? Let me try something different. Doing all of those things, I started this Nigerian ERG group like 3 years ago out of this need for, I had a lot of Nigerian friends at Accenture that I was running into during the whole George Floyd situation. And, Accenture at the time, Accenture did an amazing job of having all these different forums for discussion and sharing, and I ran into a few of my friends who were just like, hey, there, this is affecting me in a different way, but I don't know that I can really bring it up in this large setting. So we just said, hey, let's just start our own group. Every Friday, one Friday a month, we just come together and we just talk about what's on our mind, and maybe the parts of our culture that maybe it's in inhibiting our progress or things we're struggling with, and we just kind of started that way, and it became a safe space. And I ran into a few people this weekend who said, I'm still at Accenture because I have this safe space. So that safe space is absolutely critical for people's success. And I think a lot of times we wait for the corporations to make that decision for us on what that safe space is, where we don't need to wait for that safe space. Accenture creates an environment that says, hey, Kevin, if you think you need to go start an ERG where you can talk about X with this group of people, go do it. And we did. And we have a group now of people who literally feel that they have a safe space. They have that networking community that pulls behind them when things get tough. So I think it's critical. I think it's critical. Um,
It definitely is. And I mean, kudos to you for the formal spaces you create at Accenture and outside of Accenture, man. And I think I've given you your flowers so many times, but I would be remiss for
appreciate it.
one of my largest advocates and mentors and friends and all those things on this platform to not uh, re-emphasize giving you those flowers, man, because you've created a safe space for me. You've been one of the I feel what I say sometimes is like you are one of Accenture's best retainers of talent. I must say, when you talk about people experiencing so many hurdles and facing adversity and having someone like you in their corner, or just being able to see someone like you who leads the way that you do, I truly feel that there are probably just more people than you can count who have benefited from your mentorship, your guidance, and you just keeping it real per usual. So
I
I
appreciate
thank you for
that.
what you've done for me in my career, the way that that trickles and impacts my family, my career, my future, all the things. So I'm sure that the impact of Kevin Idahor will live on forever in a lot of people's lives. So got to
I
give you those
appreciate
flowers, my guy.
it. I appreciate it, bro. I think
Yeah,
the thing too, it's like as a leader, we owe that to the next generation. So part of people, someone asked me the other day, they said, you spend so much time talking to all these people. Isn't it overwhelming? I said that me being succumbed by that overwhelming feeling is not as important as me passing up an opportunity to help make a difference. Because my first 4 years at Accenture, I was on an island where no one was really checking in on me.
yeah.
Like I can get time with anyone to even just, hey, give me feedback on X. Like I can get time with anyone.
Hmm.
My experience was probably the worst it had been in Accenture. And I made the commitment to myself. I said, whenever I'm in a position, whenever I get to that position where I can influence people's experience and help intervene on their behalf, and I will take it personally. And that's what I do. So for me, it's not, I appreciate you thanking me and all of those things and giving me my flowers. I I have to do that. I need to do those things for you because if
Yeah.
I don't do that for you, you will not have the capacity to do it for the next person. And if
Mhm.
people talk about, I don't see people that look like me up there. Yeah, no shit, right? Because if it's a small group of people up there, it's not about me securing my spot up there and locking that permanent. This is my spot. No one else can come take it. It's how do I bring more people up here that look like me, and how do I reach back and help pull others that look like me.
Yeah.
So and it's sometimes just a matter of just let me intervene on your behalf, let me go advocate for you. People talk about coaching and mentorship. I think those are good and fine, but I think they're not. I think sponsorship is what we should all be working towards, but people
Right.
don't really work to sponsorship. They're just like, I have a bunch of coaches and I have a bunch of mentors. The sponsors are the one who are willing to put their entire brand at stake on your behalf. And for you, Xavier, like at any point where it's came to that and I had to go vouch for you,
Yeah.
I have been willing to put my entire brand at stake for you because I know what they will get on the other side because you are
Yeah.
attentive, you take feedback, you're a learner, you're looking to grow, you don't take things personally. Like you have all the right components of a leader. You're just saying, pour into me so I can learn those things.
Hmm.
And for me, it's never a risk when it comes to going to advocate on your behalf because I know what the others will get once they get to see you. And you've been doing that. So keep doing what you're doing, bro. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that so much, man. It's all love per usual. Well, I'm ready to get you out of here. You got to run here, brother.
Oh, good. So
Um,
good.
I appreciate you so much for doing this. Last thing, man, I do have to ask you is our last segment here is called a three piece inspired by food. Getting a three piece of this, three piece of that. Probably getting a three piece of some Nigerian food you cooked me
Yeah.
on. I need three
We got to
words
do
to
an
use.
episode on the Nigerian food you had in Houston, by the way.
Hey, it was delicious. I rocked with it. I rocked with it. I can't lie. It was good. Now, what I need is I need to come by the crib. I'm gonna have to fly out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do
Come
Nigerian
through.
at your
Come
house,
through.
bro.
Come
Yeah.
through.
But I need a three piece from your career, man. I need three words that you would use to describe your career journey thus far.
It doesn't have to be a P, does it?
No, no, not at all.
All right. So three things. I think the first one, I would say bumpy. The second one, I would say confidence. And then the third one I would say is impact. I think I say impact because I think a lot of times people want to wait till something happens to make an impact, or they want to wait till they've moved on from something or they're retiring. Like, I feel like at that point you're too late. So I think for me, I've been really focused on finding purpose in what I do. My purpose in life is what drives me, not my purpose at work. So how do I anchor to my purpose? And part of my purpose is making an impact. So for me, is I want to make as much impact as possible. Someone said to me over the weekend at this Nigerian conference thing we were having, and they said, "Hey, how does it feel sitting here with this group of people celebrating, and your vision came to reality?" And I said, "This is not my vision. My vision isn't that we all come together and celebrate this and party or whatever. My vision is all of you become managing directors. How do we get all of you to be managing directors? That's my vision. So this is just a step to get there. And I think if people start thinking about that bigger purpose and how do you make a bigger impact for others rather than just what serves you to my next promotion, my next whatever, you'll find a more fulfilling career. And I think I do have a fulfilling career. Not every day is great, but most days are good because I spend time doing those things that are impacting others' experience, work, personal, whatever it is. I make sure I'm carving time to do those things. And I think if everyone has that same mindset, we'll find that we go we go a long way together. One of my favorite Nigerian, I don't know if it's Nigerian, but my dad used to say this. It's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I think if we all start to realize that we accomplish more if we go together, we'll be in a better place.
Drop the mic, man. Drop the mic. This is an extremely special episode. Really appreciate you coming out. Means a lot to me. I'm glad that people were able to hear some of those wise tips, just a few of them, a few of the gems that I've been getting, soaking up all I could being here at the firm, man. And this is amazing. Last question for you is if you have anything else going on, anything else to plug. I know that you founded this and founded that, or are a part of so many organizations. Is there anything after you've poured into all the people that others can connect with, can go support, anything at all?
Yeah, there's an organization that I am part of in Minneapolis. It's called Black Men Teach, and essentially what it's focused on is they want to increase the percentage of Black male teachers in elementary schools across Minnesota, because we feel like education is that true equalizer in terms of equity. So if you check out www.blackmenteach.org, if you could go support, donate, whatever you can, you can offer to the organization. We truly appreciate it, because I think the impact that they're making there is going to be significant, not just for Minnesota, but for broader North America. So check out blackmenteach.org. Thanks
Check
for
out
letting
the
me say
link
that.
below.
Yeah, I
Check
appreciate
out
you.
the link below. All right, man. Well, we'll talk soon. I appreciate you so much.
Of course. Thank you, sir. Good to see
All
you.
right. See you, man. Yo, thank y'all so much for tapping in for another episode of One Fourth Careers Podcast. As I mentioned, incredibly special episode, something I'm really passionate about. We've been doing our career journey series, bringing you different individuals working across so many careers and industries. Specifically now, really wanting to also introduce you to a well-rounded perspective, bringing you executives, people who look like you, not just who are fresh into their careers, but also people who have really spent some time in the workforce and have really achieved a lot of amazing things, and letting you guys know a little bit of what it looks like on the other side. So asking real questions. There is no one better to bring to kick off this series. I hope you all really enjoyed it and it poured into your life. So like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what careers you want next. And as always, stay happy, stay blessed. Peace, family.